Hey guys, Brent Campbell again. With new tires, ignition coils, rod bearings, and throttle body actuators, the beast feels quick. So we went for a short drive on a great road I know well that has a little bit of everything and not much traffic. It continues to amaze me how quickly and effortlessly this car gets up to speed and handles that speed. That is, until I look at the fuel gauge. We burned about 1/8 of a tank in our 20-minute drive, but the sounds it makes. Intending to get some driving footage, I planned to just edit the chatter out. But when I watched it, I realized that this video shows the car doing as intended, transporting a family comfortably, briskly, and competently, with an engine whose sounds are addictive, steering that's perfectly balanced, and brakes that stop the car with authority. And oh yes, with smiles for everyone. Now we gotta do it all over again.
You're gonna do it again?
Well, because we're at a red light. This is a fun little stretch through here. I wonder if that Boxster might be interested in playing. These tires are awesome.
Yeah.
It's gripping beautifully. Like there's no trouble whatsoever.
This kind of feels like the M3 because it's turning so easily and it feels so good.
Well, it's an M car.
These tires seem to be good.
Tires are awesome. Oh, I really don't like accelerating and then having to slam on the brakes. The brakes are really good, but they're so expensive to fix. But because of the way that these brakes are, you have to replace the whole system. So instead of it being a few $100, it's a few $1,000. So you basically want to try not to stomp on the brakes too often, because every time you stomp on the brakes, it wears them down a little bit,
Same thing
and then gets you that much closer to having to replace them. What's that?
Same thing with the M3, right?
No, the M3 I don't think is as extreme, because the M3 weighs 800 pounds less than this car does. So stopping it, if you're going forward at 150 miles an hour, every little bit of weight that you throw into it affects how quickly it can accelerate and how quickly it can stop and how easily it can stop and how much energy it requires to stop it. And as it happens, I would say the M3's biggest flaw is its brakes. Its brakes are not that good. The brakes in this car, though, will stop time. I mean, they're amazing. But
Stop time?
you've got to, well, it's just a way of saying
Very
that
effective.
they're, yeah, exactly. They're very good at what they do.
What if you're going slowly through the M3 and you just want to slow down a little bit? And it's not going to be that hard.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, the brakes work. They're just not as strong as these are. But, like, the M3's brakes are much better than a typical car's brakes. These just happen to be, these are supercar brakes. But unfortunately, to replace them, you have to pay supercar prices. So if I can help it, I always like to just not wear it out any sooner than I have to. But if you have to, you have to. Yeah.
And also, the M3 came out before this one came, right?
Yeah.
But was it like the best for its time?
the best, but it was among the best. I mean, it depends on what you're defining as the best. Is in the best package? Alright, hold on.
So I mean, as like the
Hold
best.
on. Yeah, this brakes are... So I'm looking at the fuel gauge, and yeah, I think we've burned probably a quarter of it. Certainly an eighth of a tank.
Enough to.
So that's like we burned about 2 gallons of gas just in our little drive here.
Didn't you just say that this burns energy a lot more quickly?
Yes, it does. That's a defining characteristic of the car is how much fuel it burns.
So it means we still have a lot left?
Oh yeah, we got plenty of gas left. It's just that accelerating so aggressively means that we put a lot of fuel into the engine, right?
Isn't that good?
Well, it makes a lot of power.
Oh, that is nice.
Yeah, it's fun. It's neat. But, the end effect of that is that we burn a lot of fuel.
And also, you said, wait a second, when I asked you a question.
Yeah, what was the question?
The question was,
Press you remembered.
the question was, when the M3 came out, was it the best for, turning without having anything done?
Yeah, it certainly was regarded at the time and continues to be regarded as one of the best handling cars ever. Like, you can pay $1 million for a car. You can also pay as little as $10,000 for a car. When the M3 came out, it was about $60,000. Okay? So you think about $10,000, $60,000, and then like $1 million. Obviously, if you pay $1 million for a car, you're going to expect it to have a really powerful engine, great handling suspension, to be really good looking and all that. It should be the best of the best of the best of the best for the price you're paying. So, in the case of the M3, it's for the time and arguably still, as a package, it was brilliant. In that it was good looking, fast, handled amazingly well. I don't know what else is there. It was just, as a package, it was the best. Now, say you spent twice as much money, you probably were not going to get a better overall car. But if you spent 3 times as much money, maybe. This car, in its day, was as fast as the entry-level Ferrari and Lamborghini, which cost 3 times as much money to buy.
But this still costed a bunch of money.
This was still expensive. So this was $100,000 new, and the equivalent Ferrari and Lamborghini were, actually, I don't know exactly what they cost, but somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000. So in this case, you had a car that performed as well as they did and cost less than half as much money, and it had 4 doors. Yeah, so you could take your family out in it and do exactly what we did. We just had a nice drive together as a family.
Even bigger, wasn't it?
What?
It was bigger than most of the other cars that.
Yeah, right. So you could take your family out, right? You could go to the grocery store. You can use it as a daily driver.
But the main problem was that it would run out of gas.
Well, I assure you, the Ferrari and Lamborghini ran out of gas quickly too. They all got similarly bad fuel economy. But the thing about the M5 is that it weighed a lot. So the more it weighs, the more energy it's going to take to get the car to move, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to need more power, which it has. It's got the big honking V10 in it. But because of that, with all that weight that it has to move, and its ability to move it it's going to use up a whole lot of fuel, but I don't know that it's any less efficient with fuel than the Ferrari or Lamborghini were. Now, I'll have you know that I'm especially careful when carrying my most precious cargo, my kids. Thanks to selective editing, I was able to show you the good stuff without driving recklessly, except for those acceleration runs. Who doesn't love that? Anyway, my kids amaze me. They ask me these questions, and then I have to figure out a way to explain the answer so that they can understand. I think they get it, but I can't say for sure. But still, before I got the M5, I had no clue how much it actually cost to, say, replace the high-performance brakes, or the big horsepower engines melt the rear tires twice as fast as the fronts, even without doing a single burnout, or which parts have to be replaced over time and which can wait a little while. Anyway, it's neat the tidbits our kids will get out of us, and fantastic, I think, that they're so curious. Alright, as mentioned in that last video I made about the M5 rod bearings replacement, next I'm going to tell you about the rod bearings job we did this summer on my E60 M3.